Welcome to Physique, the free energy special interest group, where science meets spirituality in the quest for truth and knowledge to free humanity and transform this planet into a paradise.
Namaste. Welcome to Physics 126 meeting. Today is the 3rd of July, and we hold our meetings on the first Wednesdays of the month. And we have some of the most amazing speakers. We have just completed our first session with our returning speaker, our Physique brother, a very good supporter of Physique, Fernando Vosa, who was presenting something amazing. And we urge you to go to our website to check on our video platforms. So when you subscribe to video platforms, you will be notified anyway when the videos that have been recorded during the sessions will be published and posted on our channel. So do take note that it's also very important for you, if you're interested in learning together with us from some of these most amazing speakers that we got for you to learn together with us every first Wednesday of the month, to join our Telegram group. It's just tm or t.me Physique group, Physique _ group, and you're with us. But if you go to the website, you see all these links anyway. All right. So thank you so much, those who stayed on from Fernando's session to the second session, where our returning speaker, Robert Maxxim, will be speaking again to continue with what we had promised you that he will be talking about. So without much ado, I'm going to share screen in a moment, and so you can see what we have planned for you in the agenda. Okay. So here we are. Physique is a platform where science meets spirituality. We have with us the science and the technology from some of the most amazing speakers on the planet. We're so happy to share with you out of pocket. We are not charging anybody anything. You just join us to learn together. Okay, so the Science Meets Spirit platform. Of course, we are not just learning and not doing anything about it. We have several R&D teams, and we are doing our best to come up with something. As you see, that's why, some people don't want us to do it well. So the first session speaker with Fernando, our Physique brother, sharing on his temporal effects of lava, the plan to build a center. He has a plan to build a center for biofuturism and time research. So we had a beautiful, wonderful forum with Fernando that is so good, and you can check out our video platform to access the recordings if you missed this first session. The second session speaker, as I said, our returning speaker, Robert Maxxim, who is the author of the Legacy book series, he returns to speak, as he only got to cover some of the dimensional energy transfer and generation talk, which we had published in our YouTube channel. Okay, check it out, folks, please. In the last meeting, we got him to come back to continue with the fun numbers, the vortex maths, and the sacred number 9, the soul and energy with scientific evidence, because Robert is one who believes that he has to prove what he says is not just a hypothetical theory. Okay. He will prove to you. Then he will be talking more about the Gamma Scuti 5, his invention, the Atlantean energy generation tower system, and much more on the spiritual side of the science from beyond. Robert is a very special person because he remembers his past life. He has access to his Akashic records, and he has some of the best connections that you can ever dream of in pulling his knowledge from. And so, folks, you can ask him anything, he'll be able to give you the answers, if he's allowed. As he says before in the past meeting, if he's allowed, he will. So And then having done the Q&A session after Robert's talk and presentation, we will then adjourn the meeting to the next meeting. That will be our 127th Physique meeting on the 7th of August. So please pen down in your diary, the 7th of August. We use the same code, the same Zoom code and all that. Please do not panic when you can't get in the Zoom room. Wait for a little while. We might have technical issues like today. And after a while, just log in again and you will find all of us here. Okay, because we never fail you. For 9 years, 8 to 9 years, we are always here for you on the first Wednesday of the month, folks. Okay, that is our promise to you. Oh, so there you go. And okay, hang on a minute. Some of you asked, how do we get to know you? Okay, we are, you can write to me, crystal@truevisionofpeace.com. For now, my inbox is down. Oh, as you know, people don't want us to succeed. So we have been smoothed and stopped every now and again. Well, I will sort the problem out. The website is this one, okay? And then you can subscribe to our channels here, YouTube channel. BitChute. When YouTube doesn't allow us, we go to BitChute. And then we have Odyssey channel, which mirrors YouTube. And then we have our Facebook that will announce all the meetings. We used to have a newsletter and report sent out through MailChimp, and that has stopped. I'm afraid, and I apologize to those who have been subscribed to us, who had been enjoying our newsletter for so long, for years and years, and that has been stopped for about 8-9 months now, I'm afraid, because we don't have enough money to subscribe to so many things to keep us going. And we urge you, okay, if you got more to pay forward, please extra pay forward to us so we can afford to subscribe to MailChimp, because they want more and more money, and we just thought, okay, forget it. And you just have to join our Telegram channel, so you see all the announcements, our meetings and everything. So this takes the place of the newsletter. Thank you, folks. So there being said, I would like to introduce Robert properly for those of you who are new and who have not attended the last meeting, who doesn't know Robert. I have to introduce him again. Robert is, the author of the Legacy books, the series of books he wrote, which is, wow, covering a lot of a wide span of knowledge. I urge you to go buy his books from Amazon. Oh, you will learn so much from him. The author actually experienced several sleep time visits to other worlds as a child and witnessed countless alien craft. These visions continue to date in both wake and sleep states. He studied concert piano starting at age 3. Wouldn't it be nice if Robert could play to us sometimes? But changed his calling to science following his visionary experiences. So this book is a combination of all these experiences shared with the world for the first time. The author, it's a disclosure of sorts, folks. So do look out for Robert's books, okay? If you want to go to his website and find out more details about him, just hover your mouse over his name whenever it's been mentioned in our website and click on it, and it will take you to his website where he's got awesome knowledge put there in his website. Huge range of it. The author spent 40 years studying science, religion, and the science of life presented by Dr. Ernest L. Norman, validating his visions starting from July 13, 1973. He proceeded to confirming his sightings and experiences with other established sources, such as George Adamski, and personally met brothers from other worlds, and I presume sisters as well, that helped instruct him over the years. And so his book series is the result of such visionary and confirmation efforts written in novel form. Right, folks, over to you now, Robert. The much awaited disclosure of information from you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Crystal, for that introduction. And thank you all for being here. The last time we met, we discussed several items regarding the transfer of energy, the generation of energy, the workings of the soul. And I bring some new information today that can help fill in a few gaps, but was wondering if anyone had any lingering concerns or questions based on the information that I provided the last time that would like to come forward and have answered. Not yet. Well, okay. I want to go ahead and start with giving an update on the gamma motor. I had a bit of a setback, and the setback is due to the Argentine government. So it turns out that there are some things that I will not be able to import into Argentina because customs believes that I can find those items in Argentina, and no matter what the excuse is made, they will shut you down. So I am back at trying to source engine components within Argentina, and there may be a source in Buenos Aires that might be able to help. So I am finishing touch on a couple of measurements and designs. Not only can they source the magnets, but it looks like they can partly build the device. So it's looking good for the home team at this point. And I'm hoping to be able to give you all an update soon on how this is proceeding. Again, the gamma engine is basically a set of round magnets whose magnetization is not inward or outward, but along the circumference. And to achieve that, the objective is to cut these magnets, or rather, not the word cut, but to have them made to a specific angular size. So, for example, a round magnet with 3 divisions would be divided in 120-degree segments. A wheel with 4 would be divided in 90-degree segments, or pi over 2, for example, radians, ball bearings. And that was practically the most difficult part of this whole assembly. So from that perspective, it's moving forward, and I hope to have at least written news to the team here pretty soon. The cost is not going to be as high as I thought. So I may be able to build the entire assembly of five discs. I'm trying to keep it within 10 to 15 centimeters to contain the cost, so it should be effective. The other objective, the iron traps for the magnetic field to surround the cuts, also it's something that they can source. So it's all coming together. The spindle, I might have to resort to very lightweight wood, at least to show movement for now, trying to keep the rotational system as light as possible. So this is where that is at right now. I thought I would talk today about my first vision again, because something did happen after that experience. When I returned, I seemed to focus abnormally on the subject of nature. Something was driving me to do that, just as I was driven to go to the library and my arm began to tap a book and pull the book out. The same thing seemed to be happening with nature. And I had a phrase come to my mind. And it does honors to our host, Crystal, because the phrase that I heard was, "We live in a crystal." We live in a crystal universe. What does that imply? Well, that was the kicker that actually launched me to start studying science. I said, I have to understand more about nature, more about science. From a guy that didn't know what a wire was to someone I had to now think on a cosmic scale, it was quite a stretch. So what I began to notice was that nature, and this is also in honor of what Fernando has shared with all of us, is full of designs, is full of patterns, is full of repetitive functions as well. So what began as just a sightseeing experiment into nature turned into something that saw crystallinity, should I say, or patterns in everything, including light. And even in light with its birefrequency soon resolved itself. Everything was coming towards patterns, even resonance. Music helped me quite a bit. And I began to play with resonance and repetitive tones. It eventually led to, and I think I previously mentioned this, the number 3. The number 3 being a key component, a differential between polarities, between negative and positive, the difference between high infrared and low ultraviolet. A range, shall we say, a plane of existence. And in that plane, we have not subdivisions thereof, but scales thereof. Scales in factor of 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have numerology involved for number 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. And each of those numbers represent a specific division. Now, the concept that I eventually came to understand is that the number of patterns based on 3 in our physical plane has no limit. Below 3, there is 1, and then there is no activity. 3 is the essence of basically everything that surrounds us. Now, doing a little bit of critical math, especially with Tesla derived with the numbers 3, 6, 9, it's very interesting to note that one leads to the other, and that there is a symmetric, kind of like a symmetric crown where 3, 6, 9 can actually match itself across the circumference. So you could have 9 point at 3, 3 point at 9, create a cross, and in that cross you have 6 right in the middle. If you look at some of the atomic lattices that exist in nature, there are 2 that are quite prominent. 6, very prominent. In between 6, the next prominent is 5. Now, in looking at 6, I began to try to look at ATF, atomic force, AFT, sorry, atomic force micrometry. And I focused on a couple of studies done on the silicon atom. Yes, I found a pattern 6 in the lattices of how these atoms are formed. But there was one more thing. From each group of atoms in that central 6 core, there seemed to be a petal of 6 atoms coming from each. And each of those petals led to another hub of 6. And those other petals, and other 6. And the pattern is also repeated, not only flat, because you have to think 3-dimensional. It's not only flat, but it's also vertical. There is little equidistance between what is the hub and the petals. These seem to be groups of their own that have their own distance. But in some microscopy photos, it has been seen that there is a whirl inside the hub of 6, kind of like an energy cyclone that is whirling within those 6 atoms. Those 6 atoms are sharing, shall we say, information. They're sharing force and energy. They're trying to maintain themselves. And from what I see, kind of shoots the idea of the strong force right then and there, because the strong force does not seem to be playing a factor, or even the weak force, else this world would not be there. Now, given that we are in a 3-dimensional plane, and some of these photos are only 2-dimensional, think 3-dimensional. Turn the plane about and look at the whirlpool through a tunnel. What you see is a vortex. Now, this vortex is maintaining these atoms much like the solar system maintains its planets. It has a binding force, but it is plain cymatics. It is a resonant force. And just as cymatics works on a piece of vibrating paper with sand on top of it, the same does occur here. Now, what happens with groups of 2 petals? If you take a group of 2 petals, you have the number 3. You have the 3. You have the 6. In between them, you have a total of 9. You have 3, 6, 9. If you focus into one of the silicon atoms, you really, really explode it. Given that this is an atomic force spectroscopy, and it's the best, one of the best that we have, we can see that a silicon atom looks like a mushroom. It has a stem or a cylinder, which is hexagonal, the number 6. It has a mushroom head. It's dome-shaped, but the area towards the stem itself is hexagonal. There are a total of 12 lobes, both on the ring of the dome, the hexagonal dome. So there's 2 lobes on each side of the each hexagon side, I should say. But there's also 12 on the hexagon of the stem itself. What does all of this mean? Do we have a lower stem and a higher stem due to polarity? Why is it that they all point in the same direction? You don't have silicon atoms kind of distorted looking here or there. No, they're all pointing in the same direction. And they do not seem to be gyrating at all. They seem to be still. There seems to be no evidence of an electron. This reworks classical physics and or desired or admired philosophies altogether. It was a shock when I first saw these photos. And then when I tried to weave the numerology around them, what we see is perhaps one end has more energy than the other. hence a magnetic field, perhaps, a magnetic alignment. And it turns out that the whirlpool effect inside of the hub of 6 happens irrelevant of the position of the silicon atom. So you have a silicon atom here in this hub section, another one here, but it's pointed in the same direction. The whirlpool does not affect that position. So it looks like it's a self-induced field, yet it may be fed by this vortex, which does not affect the field itself. The last time I spoke about the creation of a magnetic field, and I required the movement of a charge, the relative movement of a charge. These atoms do not seem to be moving at all. Also, when the microscopy needle touched some of the atoms, some of these atoms, they turned and they kept their new position. They did not realign. But these atoms were not in the hub, they were in the petals. There's a lot of mystery involved. I have not worked that all out yet, but there are a lot of mysteries to the synchronicity and the resonance of atomic forces, at least the way that they're being seen today. Yes, there seems to be a vortex in the middle of the atomic force. And there seem to be directions, perhaps magnetic, but they seem to behave more like electric fields than anything else, because there is no movement. Atoms, if touched, they keep their new alignment. So with that, I then have to apply the same principle towards light and birefringency. There's a group of scientists that is trying to shoot down the idea of birefringency, because overall, it seems to go against Big Bang theories. If light is birefringency, then we can see that we are going around a type of hub, a cosmic hub, which is pointing towards the constellation of sextants. And our galaxy is going around this supposed center in billions, if not trillions of years. Big Bangists don't seem to like that, but it shows that light at least has a form. Laser experiments have also shown that light has a form. Again, patterns, vibronics, resonance. By introducing this, then I can talk a little bit about the Atlantean tower. I had to shoot this first. Last time I mentioned that energy is gathered from the ionosphere through a process of ionizing the air. Best way to do that is through ultraviolet laser or radiation, pulsed at 35 megahertz. Why 35 megahertz? 35 megahertz is the key frequency of the Van Allen belts. So what we're doing is we're opening up a path through the atmosphere, through the ionosphere, trying to touch the lower levels of the Van Allen belt and bring down that radiation to resonance. Inside of the tower, there is a containment system sized appropriately for, and I don't know if everyone has the dimensions, but it's basically a reaction chamber. Once it reaches a certain rate, it's like a pot. You're putting water into the pot. You're putting water into the pot until it's full. Once it's full, and you close the lid and you turn the heat up. Well, heat is going to cause the water to expand, but you're holding down the pot. There comes a point where the pressure of the expanding gas and water inside of the pot overcomes your hand. And what's going to happen to the water? Poof, it's going to boil over. So that's what this chamber does. You fill it up enough with energy until, much like a laser, it shoots down through a permissive crystal, which is basically a titanium oxide crystal, shoots down into another chamber where it demodulates. That energy collects in there until it boils over and it crosses another lighter titanium oxide crystal, and then it is collected into a coil array. That coil array then tunes that energy to 300 kilohertz and it shoots it into the planet, expecting to find 700 microfarads of resonance inside of the planet. So this time I wanted to add information on how resonance played with the second energy device, which I described. I did not go into details at the time regarding the ideas of resonance and why it's important. I really thank Fernando for bringing out the point. Fernando to go into detail. This is why I want to touch base with him. His research is critical, and there's a lot of information that I can share with him. The information, again, it kind of like happened. He's talking about the same subject that I was going to bring today, and I am supportive of what he said. It came in at the last point, but to me that was sufficient. Yes, the whole point of resonance is the key to energy delivery and collection. So I thank Fernando, and I look forward to talking to him some more in the days to come, and perhaps we can help each other. And I apologize for not doing more to cover the tower energy concept the last time with the concept of vibronics. It is the key to everything. Vibronics can either destroy, energy cannot be destroyed, but it can lessen energy or it can regenerate it by collective or reduction means. So that is the key to this tower generation system. So Crystal, in your hands. Okay, is the screen visible?
Yes, we see it now. Thank you. Robert, is it possible for you to zoom in so we can see, read it better? Oh, wonderful. Thank you. That's better.
This is a little better.
Mhm.
Okay, what I try to show here is kind of a miniature explosion of the mushroom head of the silicon atom. And try to divide these segments into what I call gears. And I try to find a volume to these gears. Overall in cubic angstroms for each of the cylinder heads. Then I try to compute the masses of each wafer. The wafer are those nodes that are on each of the hexagonal sides. Now notice that this is not your typical proton or electron mass. Actually, far from it. Then I try to take the sum of elemental silicon proton electron neutrons, which I call a pin, to come up with a mass combo. Now, the overall idea here is that if we take these mass combos and add them up, for example, in the large hexagon, we have 9.62 pence. In the lesser one, we have 4.36. Overall, we come up with 13.98 pence. Literally a total of 14 pence. And if we look at the silicon atom, we have 14 protons, electrons, and neutrons, right in line with present periodic stipulations for the silicon atom. I'm trying to find a picture. Here we go. This is the alignment I was talking about, and how each of these wafers lines up with other wafers and other atoms. I don't know if you can see it, but these are pictures of the wafers. Here we go. I'll see if I can zoom in a little more so you can see them. You can see here the hexagonal arrangement, both in the stem as well as the mushroom head. There seems to be corruption here of the atomic elements, possibly because the atomic force microscopy, a needle passed too close, maybe pull one out of place. It's difficult to say. It looks like something came from here, another one from here, another one from here. It got distorted. But here you see a hub. Inside of this hub, this is where the whirlpool effect takes place. And I apologize, I don't have that picture since it's a video. I don't have that picture available at this time. Not sure what follows here. I wanted to show you another picture, but I don't think I have it. It was a much better picture of those atoms. The atom, according to Robert Maxxim. This is Robert Maxim's idea of an atom sliced. So this would be the core or the stem. This would be the mushroom head. And outside is what I call a pronemo, or a contiguous positive field in empty space, which surrounds the hexagonal shell. Other formulas I'm trying to find. Apologize for all the scrolling. I don't want to take everyone's time, but I also want to show you the formula for frequency. If anyone has ever seen a tornado, this is how Robert views interdimensional energy. 3D crossover, where we're at, subdimensions or planes, different electric field planes. As we go to the fourth dimension, concavity pushing down this energy, the event horizon of which is basically an electric field, and it's 90-degree field of force or divergence, which will be equivalent to Lorentz. Everything getting pushed down. And finally, down here, having your electric and magnetic fields unified in electromagnetism, and what we have is space and time. As you go up, space and time diverges, and you have totally different physics up here. As you go up, things change. I hope to have this book out in maybe 3 or 4 months. I'm personally finishing a book on Atlantis.
Wow.
Once it is done,
Thank you so much
here we
for
go.
giving us a peek review on your manuscript before you even have it printed and published. We are so honored.
Simple stuff.
So you
Okay,
were
here it
talking
is.
about the formula of frequency.
That's
Is
what I'm
there-
looking for.
Yeah.
Yep. It's got to be here somewhere.
Mhm.
It's a little bit. I haven't touched it in 2 months, so I tend to forget things.
Wow, you
Here it
cracked
is.
the code because frequency is everything. Hey, we got a formula for frequency. Ooh, wow,
Yep.
this page.
Here it is, folks. Here's the math.
Mhm.
So delta Q, which is the difference between positive and negative charge, it's 2Q. I break that down into energy components. Simplify for negative charge. Then I take 2Q, solve for E plus and E minus. Number 11, 2Q becomes 2 frequencies plus the energy component. Move sides. Solve for V, which is scalar. You end up with 3 VQ over H is frequency, positive frequency. Delta V over delta Q being the same as Coulomb force. And then you end up with this frequency for proton. Substitute terms for positive, and you have that as electron. This is a phase offset. Now, why I put in a phase offset? It's because electromagnetism can be phased. You don't have to have synchronicity between magnetic and electric vectors. You don't have to. By nature, yes. But by manipulation, no. If you change the frequencies, you are automatically changing the phase, or the phase can change your frequencies. Why is this important? Because there are gradations to charge. And those gradations are important when you can consider the creation of a neutron. I leave it up to the book. Later on, it will be explained, but I wanted to show everyone here the formulation for the basis of frequency in these terms. Now, it's important to also consider that just as there are scales in music, there are scales in frequency. If I take quantity 2V, or 2 electron volts, for example, instead of 1, what happens to my frequencies? They double. So what you're doing is at 1 electron volt, you're having positive and negative charges, or shall we say frequencies, within pretty much the range of visible light, and a little bit under. Go twice as far, you're now into the ultraviolet. Go 3 times, you're still in the ultraviolet. Several steps up, you're climbing your plane, the plane in which frequency and electricity occurs. This is important to note because this is how you can transition planes. And this becomes very important when you try to accelerate the lifetime of a point charge or any energy. As I discussed last time, a charge throughout its lifetime can provide up to 1.6 megawatts. Instead of waiting for a trillion million years for those megawatts to be produced, what if you shorten that lifetime to a second? Well, depends where you put this electron volt value, depends on where you put these frequencies and how fast they will come at you. So we don't need to explode a nuclear bomb to get energy. We don't need to decay an atom or bombard it with neutrons to heat it up and heat water to create steam to move a turbine. Again, we're burning stuff to do stuff. Don't need to do that. Again, to accelerate the lifetime of a charge, what we have to do is accelerate this value here. And mind you, when you accelerate this value, you're also accelerating the speed of light. When you do that, you're changing the value of Planck's constant. All of that has to be taken into consideration. Overall, it is simpler to resonate matter and extract its force than to blow it up or to heat it up. Now, I want to try to find the picture. I don't know if it'll take me too long, but let me try. With the dimensions in each of these chambers, this is collection, this is regeneration, funneling through. Each distance, each cavity is sized to a specific resonance. And why is the resonance important? Control the lifetime of the element. Now this tower does not accelerate an element to its full lifetime, only partially. If it did accelerate an element to its infinite potential, then it would destroy the planet, because we're talking about trillions and trillions and trillions of megawatts being injected into the core. Now, this is only partial. Crystal, are there any questions or concerns?
I will have to pass the questions to Fraz.
All right.
Fraz,
For clarification, when we set up this vibration of the element, each of these towers, does it have a specific element and it's tuned to that element, or am I missing the point?
Very good question. if you look at the left side of the screen, I've shown two specific towers. Now, the Van Allen belt is not a one-size-fits-all. Besides, the ionosphere is not one-size-fits-all. You have different layers to overcome. You might have two towers next to each other, and you have a cumulus cloud pass over one, but not over the other one. That limits your access to the ionosphere, but at least best try. You're trying to shoot these lasers up and get to the ionosphere. And up there has been found with all of the satellites we've condemned up there, is that it has like dips and roughs and valleys, and it's not all steady. So some parts of the Van Allen belt might, for example, be struck with solar wind more so than others. You may have an energetic discharge that is a point vector that hits the Van Allen, buckles it, pushes it down a little bit lower to the atmosphere, travels around the planet, goes out the other side, or goes to the poles. There are a lot of different effects that happen up there. So this is a science at trial and safety first. So yes, Franz, you're quite correct. Each tower would have to function with some level of intelligence that knows, okay, I just lost, kind of like a dish network. Oh, cloudy skies, I can't reach a satellite, I can't bring down video. Oh, but this one can. Okay, how do I adjust? How do I keep pumping the planet with the same amount of energy, and how much am I getting in? Perhaps this tower is collecting energy at a rate of, say, 3 bulges per second. Okay, the Van Allen belt is very close to the ionosphere. This one, say, 1 bulge per second. A bulge, I mean filling the chamber before it passes through. So one is going, the other is going at a different rate. They have to coordinate, because I predict that if we launch energy into the core or into the mantle, and there's disparity, we can actually create what I call here a control upsurge plume of energy. Since it is electrified, and this is another conversation for weather control, it is a spinning field here, creates a spinning field up here as well. And what do we call high and low atmospheric pressures, but actually currents that are actually spinning? We're actually doing the same thing down here. So in effect, if we're going to use more than one tower, we have to keep in mind that, hey, the way to fill this up will control all kinds of upsurges here that can make it rain, make it dry, or make a volcano. Is it inexact science at this point? Yeah, it's emerging. It is emerging. But these are the best thoughts I have of the system at this time. The way I see it, free energy, very easy to control in a single configuration, very simple to control. In multiple configurations, I would use that to remedy tectonic plate movements, volcanic upsurges, plumes, continental drifts, glaciation, weather. That's where more than one tower will come in. But that will require a lot of study.
Okay, the thing that I see here, and yes, you touched on the point in the middle of your drawing, The other force that is going on is a horizontal force in the mantle these are the perpendicular emanations, but there's also a horizontal in the molten lava. There actually is a frequency in the very, very low frequency ranges. And we're talking, if you were to map them, thousands of miles between the peaks and valleys in that low frequency. And so we get into harmonic distortions, and you touched a little bit on this because that's what happens. You can, if you have a distortion in one location, you can have electrostatic charges building on the surface in the green area of the grass and stuff, or a little bit lower below the surface. But you also have the magnetic rotational forces that come off of that distortion, as you said, forming clouds, but also setting up for a way for the magma to move up and form a mountain.
That is correct.
I'm basically repeating what you're saying and saying there's another force that also happens in the Earth's crust, which is the longitudinal forces that's parallel to the crust itself. It's another force range, and we can feel those in areas in ley lines and in earthquake-prone areas. You'll start to feel it just like you were standing on a rail next to, let's say, not the main line of the tracks on a train, but just off of it, and the train goes by, and you feel the vibration in the tracks that you're standing on. There's no train on it; it's the harmonics.
You know, you have put up a model. You have a model with sticks going in different vectors. Do you have that handy?
Yeah, I've got several.
One that shows the operation of the Lorentz field.
Ooh, that's the other one.
Yes, the other one.
That's the other one.
I really like the other one.
This one?
Yes, that one. That explains everything right there.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all the movements that are possible on every point within the mantle, given that the core itself is irregular, and who knows what other undulations it's producing. Also, the bottom of the Earth's crust is also irregular. So mantle waves are rolling over, under, spinning, cutting through channels, emitting different velocities. The fluidics beneath the surface, it must be horrible to deal with. Yeah, absolutely horrible. And I started thinking about that model you have there. I said, gosh, you know, that's it. It's going that way, this way, that way, in every possible direction, and then some others. This is why I say that by trying to get into weather and tectonic control, it's going to take some serious science and understanding. Is it possible? Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Should we go into it easy? Yes. We need to go at this very easy and do resistive measurements, do resistive mapping. You know, that's probably one of the things that this can be used for as well. Yeah, just like Tesla did.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
For our people at home that are watching this and the model that they held up, it's basically all of those vectors are at 90 degrees to each other, and they set up their own rotational field in those different vectors. And we're no longer in 2 dimensions, folks. We're playing in multiple dimensions and multiple vectors with interactions. Go slowly. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Back to you, Robert.
Okay. Crystal?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. You did show this, what you're sharing screen in your last presentation. Yeah. That's Amazing.
I'll
I
break
think
it down
these
just on.
can be found in your
Awesome.
website, right? People can actually go to your website and study it. Or they can just
Yes.
revise the video recording that we did, and I publish it on the YouTube channel of Physique.
Mhm.
I was really, I was really so like amazed. You were presenting the formulas for proton, electrons, and neutrons. Oh my goodness! So does that mean that as frequencies, everything in these that you have presented as frequency formulas for the very particle of creation itself? Does this mean that you are cracking the code as the alchemist of a co-creator, that you're putting it in a book, like almost open sourcing once you publish the book for all to have?
That's the idea.
Wow.
I want to put the gas stations out of business. That's what I want to do. It would be
That's
nice.
really amazing.
But again, we have to remember that your typical everyday scientist, university scientist, or deep sea scientist is going to look at this and say, no, this charge coming down here and this much voltage, and not really think that this is actually a frequency. This is a system of resonance. Specific frequencies with energy are coming down here. They're being modulated and summed here. They're being demodulated, again, frequencies with the same frequencies and energies converted, not destroyed, converted into a different time lapse and being reduced. The energy is not being lost. It's only being changed until it can pass through this coil system, which is an aluminized conductor, and is pumped into the earth as a frequency. And why does it have energy? Because energy is relative to its surroundings. Else there would be no relevant energy. So the frequency is the determining factor. Now here, it's the determining factor. And yes, it has to be modulated so that as resistance changes between pings between these two towers as well, my resistivity is such that means that the mantle and energy is flowing or is traveling at a certain rate, and it's expected to hit at this time, and yes, it hit. So it's a proactive and reactive system constantly checking itself in order to then manipulate, again, through triangulated resistance measurement to know, yes, I'm bringing up an upsurge of such energy and I can control it to say, let's say they want to keep the Himalaya, Asiatic, and Hindu plates from slipping and destroying the planet. Okay, what's happening there? Well, one plate is crushing against the Himalayas and it's causing the Himalayas to come up. It's so much that it's causing Tibet to buckle. So if we look at the plane, here's the Himalayas, here's India, here's Tibet. Himalayas are going up. What's happening to Tibet? So can we stop the Indian plate from moving up? Okay, there's an application for that plate and those from the Indian Ocean and the Antarctic Ocean. They're pushing it up. Reduce, redistribute that mantle. Tell it to take it easy. So, and what's the end result? The tectonics levelize. So in the application, you have resistive measurements, triangulated resistive measurements. That's the first thing. That's what tells you how this is flowing and how much. The mantle does not necessarily have plumes that are vertical. As Frass was saying, you also have them horizontal. And you have them at every possible angle. You even have them spinning. The bottom of the crust is not flat. So the mantle is not smoothly navigating underneath the Earth's crust. Now, the Earth's crust down there has humps. How do I put a hump? A hump. So the mantle comes against here, dips, comes back up again. Maybe some little rocks fall off from the from the crust. They become like little islands inside of the mantle for a while, weighing it down, slowing it down, creating friction. All kinds of things are happening down there. Now, is that what could be causing tectonic movement? I tend to think so. I tend to think that the overall activity of mankind against the mother planet is some of the things we've done to it, and the lack of care have brought about where we're at now with so many tectonic cracks, for example. Are they repairable? I tend to think that they're not. But can they be assuaged? I tend to think that yes. And I suggest at least creating a system to measure the resistivity to transmission of energy in the mantle. And let us map what's going on down here. And we should be able to control what happens up here.
The sheer volume and size of mass, you don't have to do very much in diverting that energy into another form to pick up electromagnetic force on the surface. You only have to tap into a small amount of that. What I'm also seeing in your drawing is that in the transition, that the two towers could be set up with their frequencies to either dampen the electrical field, or by tapping off of it on the collector, or setting up a pressure like you're showing at a specific frequency that matches the oil and gas reserves inside the plates, eliminating the need for fracking using water, but just use frequency to bring the fuel to the surface to make it easier to harvest as a transition to the new form of energy observation.
Correct. And not only that, you can have a second tower that is not providing any energy whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
That second tower is picking it up and letting you have free energy, wireless.
Wireless.
It's what Tesla always wanted. But thanks to JP Morgan, we're fracking.
If I may, have you look, it's Scott, New York. Have you considered, I can't tell the size of these compared to wind farms. It just says 64 meters. That's the height of it. But what you were talking about going on underneath the earth with the plates and stuff, I would think that those wind farms are really having a negative impact, even more so than the fracking. Just so really you want to put those out of business along with the petroleum and the fracking.
Yes. In this particular model, this probe that you see here in blue is inserted 5 kilometers into the planet. Why 5 kilometers? Well, after a lot of thinking, I decided, well, I want to create a 600 kilovolt skim mantle. In other words, I have to have a buffer of energy between sublayers of the crust and the actual crust. Don't want anybody without shoes to get shorted out on the ground. So that is one reason why I stuck this rod all the way down 5 kilometers, and from 5 kilometers down, transmit that energy down. In other words, this pole is not necessarily reaching the mantle. That's not the idea, but it's reaching down enough into the Earth's block itself, the continental block, more so than the sile. The sile would be down here, and below the sile, of course, you would have the mantle. But this is 5 kilometers into the block, of which you have anywhere from 25 to 75 kilometers of depth. Sile, for example, ocean depth, you have what, 10 kilometers. So sile is not ideal. It's not ideal for the transmission of energy because it's very loose material. You want something that's hard and something that will help isolate not only distribution itself, but you need to be shielded from it.
One of the points that Scott brings up about the wind towers, it's already been noted in the line that these towers have to be grounded, and there's a serious ground array underneath each of the towers. And it's basically to take the case, it's a case ground effect, but it also picks up frequency when it does. And this is being distributed into the earth below those towers. So we're getting a pumping charge in the close proximities, because these towers are a lot of times located on basalt or lava flows, because they're on mountains and next to rivers and things like that where there's a lot of wind. Those grounding rods are actually hitting bedrock, and we end up with a charge that goes horizontal to the earth and can pop up in other areas, usually a couple thousand yards, as either piezoelectric discharges starting fires or as micro earthquakes. And so they're not isolating their charge as you're setting up your example here. They are not. They're putting it back in at the surface.
Most start thinking about water tables. What about charging the water tables that has minerals? That's traveling down the water path. You also have, for every meter, you have 100 electric volts. How high are those things? Are they shielding that? I'll bet you they're not. So electrostatic discharge due to height, they're not doing it. And what happens as the thing moves due to wind? What's happening to that distribution? What's happening to the negative charge on top of the casing and the atmospheric float above it? What's that doing to the cloud cover? What's the old saying, Fraz?
He who knows not that he knows not.
Give it to the least bitter to make it.
Yes, it's the lowest bidder.
That's right. Remember the movie Towering Inferno?
Yeah.
They used the cheapest wire. It burned down the building. Try to think.
Do you have another image that you'd like? Do you have another image you'd like to show to our audience today, Robert?
This is about it.
Okay. Back to you, Chris.
Question on this.
Sure.
As far as the size, the 64 meters, I'm thinking is actually considerably smaller in height and size to the wind farms. But what are the size of those coils? The one you said was aluminum, I guess that's the inside one. And what's the physical size of those coils?
The primary and the secondary the width of the secondary is, let me convert, it's about a good 20 to 30 meters in width. The secondary fits into the primary very closely. There's oil in the middle, of course, for containment. The cable itself is about 3 meters wide for both networks.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted some reality in that.
Mhm. There's also a dampener inside of the secondary coil, and the dampener is used to absorb energy in case that there is a flux.
Okay, back to you, Crystal.
Yeah, I am directing people to Robert's website to read about what he's presenting here to understand it better. Okay, so there you go. Here's the link, folks. It's on the chat, right? If you go to Robert's website, I mean, I've given you the link. Just click on it, and it will open up into his literally like his book there. It's beautifully illustrated as well. So you got the formula that he's talking about. Am I right, Robert? Is that where you were sharing screen just now with the formula
Yes, it's
of
in my
frequency
website.
of proton, electron,
Uh,
neutrons?
that is a book that I will publish in 2 to 3 months from now,
Uh-huh. But
and
you
it
have
will
already
have more
published
than
it in
that.
your website.
Uh,
I'm
not
not supposed to
entirely.
share it here. I'm not supposed to
No, it's okay.
put the
It's
link
there for
on the
everyone.
video that's published. Yeah,
Sure, it's for everyone to share.
sure.
Uh,
Okay.
but the
Yeah.
book will have a lot more details because that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's
Mhm.
more complicated than that.
Mhm.
So the book will have all the details.
So this is just part of the manuscript, just a teaser, right?
Yeah, the tower is complete. The tower has all the details.
Mm.
Like Scott just mentioned, it does not have the dimensions of the coils, but that information is in the legacy books.
Wonderful. Yeah, as I said again, it's so important to go to Amazon.com and search for Robert's books, buy them and read them. So together with his teaching and his guidance, we will be the awesomely powerful alchemist that he is co-creating our reality, because he got the formula to Robert.
And I hope to have the magnets by the next meeting. And I hope to be able to show it up and say, see, here we go.
So, by the way, have you actually got a good deal for the magnets that you were sourcing for?
I'm going to be getting a quote. Argentina and magnets, a little bit more expensive than the US or Europe, but with a good savings plan, everything is possible. And
You do.
perhaps I will only have 3 magnets instead of 5, but at least I'll have the working concept. But
I'm
this
sure
time,
you are extremely busy, and I really truly appreciate you for spending time with us here. But there again, I really wanted to know if you could tell me if you have a little window of time that you would want to meet up with our R&D team members so we can help you for wherever that is, as you said, you can't really do it all by yourself. You need help. And here we are. And if we can help you in sourcing for whatever that you need, we will. Here you are, you got a team here with us. Yeah.
well, now that your email is down, perhaps we can communicate through WhatsApp.
So,
But
yes.
I
I'll tell
can,
you.
yeah, we can write and I can give you an update as to where we stand. I hope to be able to release the name of the company that will decide to build the magnets, and by when. Probably be a 1 month wait time for the magnets to be ready due to demand. But in the meanwhile, I'm beginning to source the ceramic bearings and have everything ready.
Right. Shall I call upon listeners and viewers to help you out with the expenses as well? I mean, you need some funding, so we should pay for these materials and all that. Are you all right there, or shall we then ask for people to help out as well, those who can pay for it?
Well, Robert Maxim has a very, very strange rule, and that is that what God gives for free should not be charged.
Mhm.
So I try to fund everything myself, and I am grateful, truly, anyone that wants to help. Um, Perhaps your good thoughts and your blessings will be more than suffice.
Thank you. Such humility. So you hear and you've heard, folks, what Robert just said. If you want to participate one way or other in helping this materialize, do write to me. Henrik, you've got any question for Robert?
No, not at the moment.
Pontus?
Oh, pick me, pick me.
Oh, yes, Scott. I
Scott,
was going to
yeah.
call you.
I just wanted to add two things. When you did cut out the second time when Crystal corrected you, nothing got deleted, but you did cut out earlier when you were discussing the magnets and where you're talking about cutting them and not cutting them. You did actually freeze up where we did lose some of the text. And just to add, it's not actually comical, it's actually really serious. You compared that to mushrooms, and I saw it as you would, my vision was like ant hills, like the big giant ones like they have in Africa, that it's in that way.
Yeah.
And I was really thinking, I'm really actually not kidding, but you said you take things from nature. For doing the kind of thought processing you're doing, what could it hurt to actually have some mushrooms supplied from nature to help focus your thinking on what you're processing, obviously at a really high level and mid-level. And I just wanted to add that there was something that was deleted earlier when you first started talking because you froze up. I yield.
Well, I still remember, Scott. I was talking about the factory wanted to cut the sections, magnetize and cut. And I said, no, cut, then magnetize, not the other way around. So if you cut a magnetized magnet, bad news, bad things happen. So if field can get distorted, roughness, everything.
Robert, we need you to repeat again. Just a few seconds ago, you were frozen. So we didn't get the whole sentence. Sorry.
Wonderful Argentinian internet. Basically, cutting a magnet is going to distort fields. It's going to create particles with divergent fields. Not a good idea. So I don't cut, polish, magnetize. This is okay. So good thing.
Robert, Billy here. On your magnet suppliers, I was just going to mention, I believe you said customs doesn't want you importing them. What happens if they're sent to you as a gift?
AFIP or AFIP in Spanish, they will take, they will rip out any package, they will scan it, they will find out what's in it, and if it's in the non-authorized list, of which magnets is one of them, They will put it in a stockyard, call you and say, you have to supply this form and that form and have our team analyze and prove to us that what you just brought, you could not have bought in Argentina. I was trying to buy astaxanthine, which is a supplement which I use for immunologic reasons. And I bought it from a store, and the store was in Germany, actually. So I got the notice. I went to pick it up. No, you can't take it. Why? Why? Because there is astaxanthine in Argentina. Why are you buying it from the outside? It had to go back, and I could not get my money back. It was terrible. So I learned anytime I'm going to receive anything, I have to check with a FEEP, give them the source, and they tell me yes or no. So it took 2 to 3 weeks to get the notice back from a FEEP. Basically said, no, we will not admit it in Argentina. Well, tell me where I can get it. Nope, because that's competitive information. Okay, back to ground one, ground
really
zero.
bad. That's really bad.
Oh, it's Argentina is bad. It's very secluded from the world. Oh, and if I cross the border into Uruguay and buy it, my car will be searched. If they find it, I could go to jail.
Oh,
Possible solution for that? How about donations or gifts to somebody there close by where they can actually produce exactly what you need if they aren't actually able to do it? It would be expanding the corporate structure there from outside donations. I would think they would accept, currency. Would think that might help.
There's a company in Buenos Aires, and that company has already talked to them and explained, and they have agreed. They have agreed to put a price on it and get back to me. Hopefully, I'll hear back from them next week, and then it will be a month to fabrication, and voila, problem solved. But uh-huh,
I'm sorry. I think we should
it's
leave
okay.
this to, well, this is a recording and it's meant for the public. So I think this has got to be secretly discussed more privately. Yeah. Because,
Sepkin has the 2000 has a question, has his hand up, and then I think we need to wrap it up.
yeah, we need to wrap it up, stop the recording, and we will continue with this meeting privately. Okay.
Do you want to open it up for Sepkin, or do you want to close the meeting first?
Oh, Mattis, bro, please ask your question. You have your hand up. Go on then.
First, thank you very much, Endless Robert, for what you're doing for humanity. I have a very simple question. I buy these 2 magnet pieces from Crystal Shop in Philippines, but I did not really understand how they become a magnet. Are they later on it's being magnetized, or it is growing like this?
Normally, what they do is they will take alnico or even a magnetizable ceramic, and they will put it between 2 plates, and then shoot a strong static charge to them to create a magnetic field, and that's how they magnetize them. So some magnets, they magnetize from this end to this end. Some others, they flip it around, they magnetize from this end to this end. If it's a bar magnet, normally they magnetize from here to here. Others, they magnetize along this edge or along this edge. What I'm looking for is a magnet which is semicircular at different degrees of cut, not magnetized this way or this way like a horseshoe magnet, but magnetized from here to here. Now, I apologize. A horseshoe magnet is correct. I apologize. A horseshoe magnet is magnetized correctly. Only problem is that the shape is incorrect.
They are it's come in different shapes.
Yes.
So they are not naturally grown like this, right?
What material is that?
Yeah,
Can I jump in?
it is a kind of a crystal and something like a metallic,
It's
and
hematite.
it's quite heavy.
Oh,
It's
hematite. Okay.
Hematite. It's hematite. It's a natural, yeah, crystal. Sorry, I just jump in because I've got some of those myself.
Hi, John. Good to see you
Hi,
here.
Crystal. Yeah, good.
Hi.
Thanks.
I have never had one of those. I have never seen the properties of the hematites, but I read about them. So they're naturally charged to electric discharge or something like that.
Yeah, I think they're a natural form magnet in a crystal structure. So they're a natural magnet effectively with no charge, you know, no like productionized magnetism added to them. They're not very strong, but they're reasonable. And I do use them. You can use them in a healing.
Yeah, that's what I do. I use for healing. Yes.
Yeah. That's what they're excellent for releasing emotional trauma.
Yeah.
I do it with the what's it called? One of the healing modalities. And I use a magnet. You run it down your back, and it discharges your trauma when you've got hidden heart walls. It's Bradley Nelson's healing on that, but they're excellent for that. And the natural crystals, I've got one here myself in front of me, so I use them.
So shortly, it is a natural crystal.
Yeah, they're just polished.
Okay.
We have them in the States out of the same material, but it's a totally different shape. It's more cylindrical with the ends tapered, not at points, but more like two cones.
Yeah.
Same material, and they're relatively strong. They seem pretty strong. They make a weird sound when they click together.
You throw them up in the air and they click together. They're like elliptical shape, aren't they, Scott?
Yeah. Pretty
Yeah.
common. I've seen them pretty all around a lot of stuff.
Right. I think
Okay,
I'm
thank
sorry,
you.
I'll have
Thank
to
you.
stop
Thank
this
you.
discussion. Do not stop the recording yet. Hang on a minute, because we can continue discussing this after I've adjourned the meeting to the 127th meeting. I think we have a few ladies here who are burning to ask questions about the spiritual side, the spiritual explanation of the signs from beyond that I promise in the write-up to announce this talk. Yeah, we have Tricia here, and we have Mona. Mona is still here, and Natalie. Hi, Natalie. Good to see you here. You probably want to ask Robert about the spiritual side of things. Like, for instance, I can start the ball rolling, I can start the thread, okay? But we got to be brief because I think the recording is almost coming to about 2 hours right now, and we can't have it too long. I just wanted to touch on the topic so everyone's happy on the spiritual side of things, because it's been science throughout for so long, which we will continue after the meeting, after the recording. I was going to ask this question. Okay, so you're talking about the Van Allen belt just now. So let's take it from there. The Van Allen belt, you said, Robert, that it's got, hang on a minute, I did write some notes, that 35 megahertz is the frequency of the Van Allen belt. And you were saying, touching about this belt, that isn't the Van Allen belt the firmament of the planet? And isn't that firmament is kind of like the what's called the shield of the matrix that is suppressing the frequency and making it into a 2D density? So we can, 3D density, so we can't go beyond that, 40 to 50. So when a person dies, so with the white light trap, reincarnation trap, is it has it got any relevance with the 1 Allen belt and the 35 megahertz frequency? Can you put more light on this, please, so that we can escape the matrix and pierce through it and go the other side instead of being trapped here?
Well, the Van Allen belt is a simple filter. It's been studied for several years. Satellites, astronauts have gone beyond it. What it does, it protects us from cosmic radiation and also solar radiation. Sometimes you'll hear that there's a mega discharge corona of the sun, and it's traveling towards the planet. And when it hits the planet, different things happen. Like the other day, there was an aurora, a reddish aurora that traveled down towards the equator. People were freaking out, it's the end of the world, what's going to happen? Some satellites had to shut down because if they were operating, they would fizzle with the energy because those satellites are above the Van Allen belt and they're not protected. So the Van Allen belt, basically, thanks to the Van Allen belt and our magnetic field that helps produce it, thanks to it, we are alive. Thanks to it, we have vegetation, we have microbial life, we have water, we have a combined comfortable temperature in the planet. Is it a filter that keeps us from attaining spirituality or reaching the light? I would tend to say no, because I've gone to the light and I have been inside the field. So I have made it through, and other people make it through. They report in near-death experiences that they actually reach the light. So it's not blocking us. Besides, it is a third plane energy. Spiritual energy is above that. Consciousness is not a thing of this plane. It's above it. So therefore, it has no dependency and no links, restrictive links, to any of the materia that is on this plane. I know it's a little difficult to explain, perhaps, but what we call the soul, the consciousness, the super consciousness, that is our intelligence that resides on planes above what we experience here in a physical mentality. Does the magnetic field affect our physical mentality? It could. It could impact it. And how? We live inside of magnetic currents all the time. There are experiments taking place in biomagnetism today. John was talking about biomagnetism a little while ago. There's a lot of value in considering what magnetic fields can do to us. We have magnetic resonance machines that can map our entire body down to granules inside. Magnetic fields can penetrate into our bodies and picture it like a radar. So what kind of harm is that doing to the body? Is it worse than an X-ray? Some people tend to think yes. If you take an X-ray, that's the equivalent of a miniature of what you experience when you take a stratospheric flight. You go up 10,000 meters or something like that, or 12,000 meters in an aircraft. You're getting closer to the edge of space. And guess what? There's less atmosphere up there to protect you. So you're getting more cosmic radiation up there than you are on the ground. So when the next time you take a flight, consider you're getting possibly 6 or 7 X-rays when you're up there. So that affects the body, but it can also affect the mind. Tell me, if you've flown before, how does your mind feel when you're up there? Does it feel a little distorted? Is it because of height, because of containment inside of a tube, or because there is energy up there that's messing with your head? Very possibly it is.
So people who are working the airlines have a shorter lifespan.
There could be problems, yes. Pilots, for example, incidence of cancer, very possible. It all depends on your immune field. And I think John has something there to talk about if he would come on camera for a show. There's a lot on biomagnetism that can be brought to life, and it needs to be better understood to get rid of migraines, for example, to get rid of lobes. It's a science that needs to be studied at depth. I've done a little bit of research on it, but I focus more on the energy production than the biophysical aspects of it. I just know, to recapitulate, that what happens in the Van Allen belts is really not related with going to the light. It's not related with consciousness. Although, if you jump on a rocket and you cross the Van Allen belts without proper protection, you could be dead in seconds. The radiation would smoke you. It is not a dome. It is not keeping us down here slaves or trapped. It is actually saving our lives, because without it, we would all be dead. We need the Van Allen belts. But to cross it, we need to be protected against radiation as something massive. I already took down the picture, but we're talking about downloading to a single tower a total of 100 megavolts per second of energy. Now, 100 megavolts of energy, those are, let's say, particles. They're being collected in a chamber. Now, what is the equivalent of 100 megavolts in that chamber through an acceleration process? Trillions of volts. Because 100 megavolts is what this device is yielding right now. A 9-volt battery gives you 9 volts for how long? Depends on usage. Let's say a radio is turned on for a week. You got 9 volts for a week. What if you had 9 volts for a second? All that current spent now. That's what we're talking about. So I just had to bring that. I took an opportunity to bring that into perspective so we all realize the impact of how energy needs to be managed, administered, and used. Not burnt, not crushed, but accelerated.
Yeah, Robert, could
That helps.
could I just add to that? It's like I shared something last week in the meeting, the R&D2 team meeting, which was, it's like vortex fusion. What you're talking about, the technology, effectively, it's like a volcano with the positive and negative charge meeting, and you get the lightning discharge because you've got the crystal in the magma and it's grounding to the mantle, but you've got the ionosphere charge release, and that's basically what your technology is. On my Facebook page, I've put a post out just about that. It was on the last week, actually, Robert. So it's kind of like thunderstorm kind of understanding, but it's classed as like vortex fusion, because like what you've shown in your vortexes under the ground, you're going to fuse them together to give you a third reaction from 2 towers in effect. So it's like it's like a volcano, but you've got it split and separated to give you a separate charge that isn't at the point of where the high impact and energy is. You're harmonizing the two to give you a coherent sort of discharge, from what I can, what I'm taking in from what you've explained anyhow.
Thank you, John.
Correct.
Right. So, Tricia, if you don't have any question for Robert or Natalie? then I'll need to wrap this up quickly because it's like.
I have one more question. You were
Be
talking about,
quick, Scott.
yeah, you were talking about the, were you talking about the CAT scan with the magnetism? Because that makes you like radioactive where you'll set off the alarms in the airport. And also those
Oh, yeah.
scanners at the airport are having problems too with even the people operating them. But were you talking about a CAT scan when you were talking about magnetic something a few minutes ago?
Yeah, magnetic resonance imaging, MRI. Yep.
Okay, so you got the answer, Scott. All right, shall we wrap it up now, friends? We can discuss the details later after we stop the recording. So, folks, there being no other questions, no other business, I now adjourn this 126th Physique meeting to the 127th meeting on the 7th of August. Just pen it down in your diary. Same time, same code, everything same. Don't be panicking if we don't open a few minutes later. So just come back again and we'll be here for you. Thank you. Thank you, Robert. That has been such an enlightening talk and presentation. We just love it. Thank you for disclosing all these discoveries. And thank you, brothers and sisters of Physique. Can stop recording now. Namaste.